Next from Springfield, we attend a House committee hearing on a bill that would remove Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville from the Southern Illinois University system. This runs about 1 hour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Higher Education Committee. I'm here today with Representative Katie Stewart and Representative Monica Bristow, and with a similar interest is Representative Latoya Greenwood. And we're here today to discuss the future of Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, as well as the entire Southern Illinois University system. Number one, I'd just like to say that for many years I've been a proponent of enhancing the entire Southern Illinois University system. That includes Carbondale, Edwardsville, and the medical school here in Springfield. However, recent events have brought to the attention the fact that we believe that there has to be some changes in the system in order to better reflect the strengths of the Carbondale campus, the Edwardsville campus, and the medical school. So I have introduced the amendment number 2 to House Bill 1292, which would allow the Edwardsville campus, the Carbondale campus, to have their own boards of trustees, the same way that Illinois State University has, the same way that Northern Illinois University has, the same way that Eastern, as well as Western and Chicago State, so that you can have each of those boards self-governing, which I believe is important, and focusing on the mission and the strengths and addressing the weaknesses of the two universities. This isn't a new proposal. I think as we've seen Edwardsville grow to the point where now the Edwardsville campus has nearly the same head count as the Carbondale campus, we believe that we should have self-governance, and each university should be able to focus on its unique strengths and to address their weaknesses. So with that, I would move that we recommend for adoption amendment number 2 to House Bill 1292.
Before going to questions, just for the record, we don't have anyone listed as proponents or anyone listed as opponents. No witness slips have been filed on it. And before we go to members for questions on it, the people in Carbondale, who do they root for, the Cubs or the Cardinals?
Yeah, the Cardinals, and I think,
Edwardsville?
unfortunately,
That's not helping you.
unfortunately for our sake, we were for the Cardinals too.
Oh, Lord,
Yeah,
have
sorry
mercy.
about that.
I spend a lot of time on the SIUE campus. I see a lot of Cubs gear and a lot of Blackhawks gear as well, too.
They're making progress.
They're making progress, in your opinion, yes.
And a little levity.
And you should be happy about
The Cubs
today.
did win today.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So the floor is open for questions from members. Members' questions. Representative Flowers, then Representative Bryant. We're going to add Representative Pritchard to the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Hoffman, as you and I was discussing earlier, I remember when Edwardsville was built and how it came to be. It was really an ideal of Representative Wavetta Young and her senator, then Senator
Vidalabine.
Yes. And I can appreciate what you're saying about the board and the governance. My concern is East St. Louis, because Edwardsville was supposed to have been in East St. Louis, but that didn't happen. But now I understand that East St. Louis does have a campus of Edwardsville or Carbondale.
It's under the Edwardsville moniker, and that's why Representative Greenwood is extremely supportive of all three of these bills.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the same problem that we are experiencing with Carbondale and Edwardsville does not happen with East St. Louis as far as being forgotten, as well as the medical school. And I know the medical school will not be forgotten. And so we're just merely talking about the board and the governance of the board.
What this would do is it would have Edwardsville with the St. Louis campus, as well as the nursing school, the pharmacy school, and the dental school, which is located in Representative Bristow's district. as well as the medical school would all be under the Edwardsville moniker. It would have its own board. Then the Carbondale campus would have its own board with the law school and everything that goes with, and is currently on the Carbondale
But isn't there a
campus.
medical school in Carbondale?
No, it's in Springfield.
Medical schools,
Okay,
yeah.
and so what would that be?
Under this proposal, it would go under the Edwardsville moniker and the Edwardsville University, and the reason would be is Edwardsville currently has a school of pharmacy, and it currently has the dental school, and it makes sense to have a healthcare university whose goals would be to enhance not only grant receipts, but also to enhance a healthcare type training and be known as a healthcare destination, and that's what we believe SIU Edwardsville will be ideal to do.
And so, just out of clarity, because I could have sworn that I was down in Carbondale, and it was a bunch of doctors, and we were talking about the health professions, and that was in the early 90s.
Yeah, I believe that some of the okay. The first year of medical students currently are in Carbondale, the next two are up here.
Okay.
So the school is actually located here, but they do the first year in Carbondale.
And so how will that be addressed? Will it,
Under this proposal, it would go to Edwardsville.
so the school will be closed in Carbondale?
The school will not be closed in Carbondale.
I mean, that section, will it be moved from Carbondale to Edwardsville?
It probably would be, yes. Or it would be better moved to Springfield, to be very frank with you.
Okay. And so, what was our agreement on this bill? Because
told-
there's two versions out here. There's one, your version, to separate the two, and then there's another version.
To reconstitute the board, and then Representative Stewart has a version regarding the funding. So traditionally, the funding was 60-40, 60% to the Edwardsville schools, and 40% to the, or 6% to the Carbondale schools, 40% to the Edwardsville schools. That has changed dramatically. Now it's 64% to the Carbondale schools, 36% to the Edwardsville schools, while we're seeing the head count of students nearly identical. I think they're 500 difference between Edwardsville and Carbondale. So we believe that fundamental fairness would indicate that at a minimum it should be at 60-40. I think it should be more like 50-50, but that's a different discussion.
Well, Katie, I know you haven't presented your portion of the bill yet, and I would rather that, if anything, instead of making it 50-50, because that would be lowering it for one school to bring up the amount for another, I think there should be an increase in the funding of the Edwardsville school as opposed to taking from. You know, we don't take from one prison to give to another, so we shouldn't take from one educational system to give to another, because education is too important. And the problem with what's been going on, this issue's been going on for a long time. I know for the 30-some-odd years that I've been here, it's been a major issue as far as the funding, the recruiting, and being able to maintain. That's been a major problem. But I'm willing to work with you guys because the school is in your district. But I do know a lot of the students that's able to attend and go to school come from the city of Chicago. So,
Yeah, I think, Representative, what you just said begs the question for a solution, or, begs out for a solution.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank
At
you,
the
Leader
proper
Flowers.
time-
Representative
At the
Harden?
proper time, I move to pass.
Well, thank you so much. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One question that you asked, and I'll ask the sponsor at this point. So there's no one in opposition, no proponents, no opponents today, right?
I have no witness
Okay.
slips either
So
way.
when did we know for sure that this bill was coming to committee today? Do you know when the announcement was made that these were going to, all three were going to be moved to committee?
Does the committee clerk know when it was posted?
I didn't hear about it until today, that it was being moved to committee. So I'm concerned
The
that...
official word that it was getting moved to committee came today. So all of us received the same amount of information at
Right,
the
so the
same time.
public, though, if they wanted to be, say, a opponent, they wouldn't necessarily know until today when it's posted, right? So we could have some people who are in opposition of this, but they didn't know that it was coming to committee.
Well, that's the process, and we still have another week for bills on third reading.
Okay.
And I'm sure if there are opponents or proponents out there, we will hear from them.
Okay, I just didn't want to leave the impression that there are no opponents to this, okay? Okay, so just a couple questions then, in regard to the medical school being moved. Do you know which campus accreditation for the medical school is tied to?
I would assume currently the Carbondale campus. We obviously wouldn't move the medical school until the accreditation was transferred.
How long does it take to do that?
I don't know.
Long time, maybe?
We would not, if you would like to propose an amendment, that until the accreditation is transferred, that move wouldn't take place, I would adopt that amendment. You could be the sponsor.
I think you know, but but thank you for your answer.
Can I just say something? Because I know.
Sure.
So I've been through. I have no desire at all to hurt the Carbondale campus. I really do believe that if each campus were to have its own board like the rest of the university systems do, that you guys, we and you could focus on the strengths. Okay, if you want to discuss the medical school and where it goes, I'll discuss it with you. Okay, but I just think that self-governance is important.
So,
And right now, we're fighting over the crumbs that are left by some really years of neglect for higher education. Now,
I
you
understand.
vote, I know how you
I know,
voted,
so I
and you've
talked
been
to
supportive.
this today because I thought it was important since in this conversation, I'm relatively new to the table. So I contacted my predecessor to find out where he had been on this in the past and what the direction was. And many of you know my predecessor, so I won't quote him on a lot of this, but right. And so, he indicated to me that this has come up probably for the last 20 years at least. And I'll quote a little bit of what he said, which was, anything that separates the campuses diminishes its power and prestige at the state and national and international levels. So separating the two campuses does not make one campus stronger and the other campus stronger because they're separated. In fact, makes both campuses weaker. And I would have a question then also on this in regard to the new makeup of it. So one portion of this says
And
that...
I've disagreed a lot with your predecessor
I know
in
you
the
did.
past.
I know you did. Yeah.
So that's his
That's why I
opinion.
said I wouldn't quote a lot of the
He's
stuff
very
that he said on
opinionated,
this particular
but
one.
he's a-
yes.
he's a
But I
friend. I
did
consider him
promise
a
I wouldn't
friend.
throw any papers. Okay, so okay. So then another question then that has to do with the student trustees. So this bill allows, it talks about the fact that there are 3 trustees at U of I, right? Does it not say that? I'm sorry. No, I'm talking about U of I because
Can I talk about this bill?
You can, but I mean, comparison has been made to U of I and how their student trustees work, right? Because you're trying to get another vote for the trustee, right? We have two student trustees. One gets a vote, one does not.
So
And in my analysis,
Representative, currently, I can tell you, there's 2.
yes,
There's one from Carbondale, and
One
there's
from
one from
Edwardsville.
Edwardsville, and the governor chooses
which one?
which one gets the vote.
But in my analysis, it refers to U of I having 3 student board members because each one represents one portion of those campuses, right? So at this time, I'm just curious, do their student trustees get a vote? Do you know? One vote.
I think they get one vote.
Your bill is asking that both of these student trustees under
No,
this
that's a different
under this
bill.
amendment?
So this bill.
Are we looking at 1292?
1292, Amendment Number 2, there'd be one student trustee on the new board of SIU Carbondale.
Okay.
And there'd be one student trustee on the new board of SIU Edwardsville. And like Illinois State University, like Northern, Western, Eastern, Chicago State, there'd be one student trustee, and that would be
One from each?
one from each.
But you're not advocating now I know we're only talking about one bill, but much of the conversation for all 3 bills is going to be similar. But we're not,
Yeah.
in any of this advocating for both trustees to get a vote in the same year?
I think I think there may have been a misdraft in one of the bills, but Monica can address that when we get to that bill.
Okay, when we get to that one.
But
Okay.
this bill, there'd be one in each.
Okay. So right now, the Board of Trustees just recently met. There was an agreement with the Board of Trustees to do an independent study of how money is allocated for the campuses. We may find that, I know we're going to talk about allocations in a little bit, but the trustees right now are moving in a direction to make both campuses healthy. Why would we need to have a legislative response to this when we obviously have the board being somewhat proactive right now, moving in a direction that might make the Edwardsville campus receive more money when you're talking about crumbs? Why would we not let that play out? Why do we want the legislature to get involved in this particular situation?
I wasn't at the meeting, but I've been told, and I could be wrong, that with regard to that determination as to doing that study, that they didn't take action on that. They did not take action. And the request, which was put forward by, I believe, the administration, of making it a 60-40 split, as it traditionally was rejected. And
Yeah, I don't think that's
but that was the
accurate.
day. That's what. And it was the day after the governor appointed the deciding vote for a Carbondale person, which I'm sure is a nice person. But we're having these parochial fights, and there has been traditionally an agreement that there would be three that would be affiliated with the Edwardsville campus, three with the Carbondale campus, and then one that would be independent. And the board would work together with a common mission. So when you change that dynamic, right, that gives us grave concern. And so that's a result of those actions. But this is a direct result of those
Well,
actions.
I'm glad to hear you say that actually on record. So this is a direct reaction to being unhappy with a decision that the Board of Trustees made?
No, it's a direct reaction of Carbondale getting 64% of the money and Edwardsville getting 36% of the money, and it's also a direct reaction of the infighting of the board that has to stop, okay? And it has to make sure that the new boards, Edwardsville and Carbondale, put their best foot forward for what is in best interest of those individual universities. That's what this would do. That's what this would do.
Obviously, I totally disagree with you, and I'm not going to be supporting the bill, obviously, and I would ask you to pull the bills and wait until
Oh, we're not pulling the
until we do
bills.
an independent study.
We're not pulling the bills.
Okay. Well, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Representative Bryant. We have a number of members seeking recognition, members. Representative Ammons.
Thank you. I just want to, listening to the debate, of course, I'm not familiar with what's going on down at the university there. I want to ask in relationship, and maybe it doesn't fit in here, but they're kind of tied together. With the separation of the institutions, how would appropriations portion of this work?
Well, then there would be separate appropriations for each of the, just like
Just
Illinois
like
State gets one,
Illinois.
Western gets one, Illinois gets their own. It would be the same way.
So,
Right now, it's basically a lump sum.
Okay.
And then the Board of Trustees decides. And see, here's what's happened, is it used to be 60-40, 60 to Carbondale, 40% to Edwardsville. Time has gone forward, and now they almost have an equal number of students, okay? And now it's 64 to Carbondale and only 36 to Edwardsville, while they've grown and almost have an equal amount of students. So there's a proposal to get it back to 60-40, which would be $5.1 million, to be done internally with the board, and that was rejected.
So with this action, I would just say I've spoke to the couple of the members on the floor today. Bill, I'm a little concerned about separating the system itself, but I'll vote to get it out of committee and continue to listen to this and look a little deeper into what's going on with the separation of the system.
And I can assure you, I'll work with you to try and come with a solution on this. I have for the years that I've been here, right, since 1991, and we've been able to, and we'll be able to here.
Can you just a little bit clarify the impact on the students? You know, usually, I feel strongly that I represent the students of the university, and I'm always concerned and considerate of the students in response to stuff like this and the Board of Trustee issues. Can you give us an idea of what's going on with the student body and the impact thereof?
Well, what's happening is as less state money goes to one of the two sides, there's a upward pressure on things like tuition. And so I agree with Representative Flowers. We should be giving more to higher education. And over the last 3 years, we've seen a diminution in the amount of money that's gone to higher education. And probably a lot of these problems we wouldn't be facing if there was more money to higher education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just new to this committee, so you're going to have to fill me in on something. It sounds like we're creating two separate universities out of one. Am I correct here?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there already are two separate universities, but they're all under the same system.
Sure. So this 60-40 split or whatever will become totally irrelevant as both universities come and ask for separate appropriations. Am I not correct?
Correct, but I can assure you one of the things that I would do is I'd be willing to talk to the Carbondale folks about making sure they don't lose money out of this. Okay?
Right, but the ultimate responsibility and decision rests with the appropriations that we give to those universities rather than those two universities going to one another and saying, I'll split it with you this way or that way. I mean, now we basically have got two new universities competing with the University of Illinois, Northern ISU and all that, instead of one university competing with Illinois, I just don't understand why we're so concerned about a split of money if what we're doing is dealing with two universities coming here and asking for separate appropriations.
Well, you would have independent appropriation hearings, and the ultimate appropriation authority rests with us.
Right, so the split really...
Currently, the ultimate appropriation authority, just the way it's been done traditionally, is we give a certain amount to the system, and then the ultimate appropriation authority of how it's split is with the trustees.
But that would go away under the current proposal, is
Under
that-
this bill.
Under this bill, okay. All right, I need to spend more time. I'm not going to waste the committee's time with my study. Thank you.
Representative Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, when you comment that there needs to be two campuses here, two universities with separate boards, why is this any different than the University of Illinois system that has three? One board, three campuses with very different needs, and they're able to resolve their differences.
I'm not on the Board of Trustees.
I know you're not, and it's a good thing, because this
But-
would be a conflict of interest.
Right, you're right. But I really like the system of DeKalb and Northern and Western. I think your system is superior to ours.
It certainly advocates for that particular campus.
And that's what we're
but
saying.
I'm saying there is a model out there that seems to be working very well. And to change the system, I think, is creating more bureaucracy, if you will.
It
And
would- it
when
would
you
al-
talk about the two campuses having similar enrollment, they are using different resources with that enrollment. So a 50-50 split may not be appropriate when you consider the medical campus needs and supporting all of the support staff for that type. So I'm just saying that it just seems problematic that you're trying to go down one direction when clearly the administration of the universities feel that there's a different way that could be worked out. So we have a problem with the boards. So why didn't you push one of your other bills to reconstitute the board?
That will be called. So that we have
I
options.
didn't realize we were going to call that.
Yeah, so we will have options. And the whole idea is, I'm not saying my way is the best way. I'm saying let's try and work this out. But I do believe that if Western and Northern were combined and they were under one system,
They were until 95.
that's right, and there was a reason that I voted to separate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Pritchard. Representative Bennett, then Representative Phelps-Finney.
Thank you very much for bringing this, Representative. A few questions, I guess. Can you help me with a little bit of history here? Where is this coming from? Is this urge to do this coming from the board? Is it coming from the faculty? Is it coming from the students? Is it coming from the president? Where's the movement coming from? Is it coming from the campuses somewhere? I'm trying to understand what's driving this, please.
Well, it's certainly coming from the Edwardsville campus.
Edwardsville, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we talking staff, faculty? Can you tell me a little more?
I've not got one call in opposition to it of anyone who's related to the Edwardsville campus.
I'm sorry?
Because I actually represent the Edwardsville campus, and I've only gotten in support of separation. I haven't gotten any opposition.
Okay, so are we talking two presidents and also, or what are we talking about here, please?
Well, there currently is a president of the whole system,
Okay,
and then there are chancellors at each of the campuses.
so we have two chancellors.
So that wouldn't change. You'd call him a president, I guess.
Okay, so so today they have two chancellors and a president?
You wouldn't need that upper layer.
Okay, so I'm asking, so basically I'm trying to understand the administrative piece of this. So you're saying it would cost more or it would cost less with the administration?
It would cost less, I believe.
Okay, so in terms of curriculum and all those kind of things, that wouldn't change today? I don't know, I'm just asking at a high level.
Yeah, I don't.
Please.
It's not our intent to change them.
Okay, just trying to understand how this is working. So,
I think it would let each campus be able to respond to any changes they wanted to make in curriculum more easily, because they
Okay.
would not be tied to the system. So if one campus wanted to look into putting in a new, like a cybersecurity program that I know they're interested in putting in
Sure.
in Edwardsville because of the location of Skyder Air Force Base and other Boeing and other employers in the area, I think it would make it easier for them to make those changes, actually.
okay. So I'm hearing you say, that, if I may, that the folks you're hearing from Edwardsville is really wanting some change, but you're not hearing much from Carbondale.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I'm just trying to understand.
You'd have to ask Representative Bryant that.
Okay. Feel free.
No, the SIU Carbondale people do not want to separate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Representative Phelps-Finney, and then we have Representative Flowers for a follow-up, and we're going to then go to vote on this issue.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, just so to clear that up a little bit, so Representative Bryant actually, SIU campus proper is really in her district. I have like the Economic Development Center. Our district literally goes along Highway 51, so I have east of 51, which she has west, and that's most of SIU campus. But to ditto that, Carbondale is not in favor of this.
And just like we've had basically an understanding that the board would be an equal number from Edwardsville relationships and equal number from Carbondale relationships, and then one would be neutral, and that's been violated now.
You're saying the 60-40 split goes back as far as the 70s?
1979 is what I'm told by. They're not advocating either way. They're just giving me
Right.
statistics.
So when I read the document you gave me a little further, because it says, historically 64% to 36%, and then it goes on to say, and I didn't catch this at first, but I've read and reread and maybe all my years of Bible study, and every little word means something. I'm not an attorney, but words mean something. It says state appropriation was appropriately viewed as warranting a 60-40 split. It does not say that it actually was a 60-40 split. It says was viewed as warranting. So I'm just kind of questioning, because I have other information that was given that maybe that's not so.
This information was given to the Board of Trustees. I shared it with you, and I'll share it with anybody. I didn't write it.
I know.
And I don't know. No, the term warranting, I don't know that it means if it actually happened.
Right.
I'm just telling you what
I get it. And like I said, I didn't catch it at first, but so I'm just.
Maybe you should have went to law school.
Maybe I missed my calling. So I'll just end with this. I think this is very unfortunate. For me, I kind of relate things back to, and I've shared this with Representative Stewart. To me, this is a slap in the face to Carbondale. I feel like, Carbondale, Edwardsville was just a blip on the radar when it was started, and Carbondale nurtured and loved Edwardsville like a child, and you rear it up, and you're proud of it, and you send it off in the world, and you're so glad, and you want it to prosper. And then it's kind of like an ungrateful child that just kind of says, you know what, don't think I need you anymore, Mom and Dad. And so this is very disturbing to us. And in Carbondale, in Southern Illinois, we are struggling in the southeast corner of Illinois, and I know Representative Bryant and Severance know exactly what I'm talking about. And this would be devastating to Carbondale. It is a very vulnerable state right now. It has lost tremendous enrollment, and this would be a devastating move. I concur with Representative Bryant. We need to wait for a third party to view this. This is what the board retreat also agreed to recently, to ascertain what is the accurate division of funds. And that's what I hope we can do here. So thank you.
So I don't view this as being ungrateful. I think both of the universities, if they have their own self-governance, will be able to prosper. That's my belief. And whatever money that Carbondale gets now, I don't want to take away. I'd like to enhance it. That's just me. I just believe that for long term, focusing on your strengths and addressing your weaknesses is singularly for what you guys have is the way to go, and we could do it for what we have. I don't want bad things to happen to Carbondale, the campus, or any of your districts. I can promise you that. And I would just say one other thing, Representative Bryant. I don't believe that they voted to move forward with that study yet. If we could get an independent third party to look at governance, to look at funding, to look at distribution of funds, an independent third party, not a board that is swayed one way or the other. Would that be something, if I could work with you, would you be supportive of that?
So I even did an interview yesterday on a local radio station where I said that an independent study is what the board agreed to. And I believe in interviews with the president recently, he indicated that he is searching right now for someone to do that independent study. If the independent study, and it is truly an independent study, is done, and they determine that the allocations are to be, if the appropriation is to be allocated differently than what we see right now, I would support that, because I'm trying to be territorial about this. If the system is healthy, if each campus is healthy, then the system is healthy. If the system is unhealthy, each campus is going to be unhealthy. And, something I didn't mention in all of this is the research designation. The national research designation is to Carbondale. If Edwardsville separates from Carbondale, that designation is not transferable. So Carbondale's designation then becomes in jeopardy for that research designation, and Edwardsville cannot get it. So Edwardsville gets the perks of having that designation. Separating those two campuses makes both campuses unhealthy, thereby making the system unhealthy. I want to work with you on this.
So my question to you is, if we could if we have an independent study based on allocation, shouldn't we also have an independent study looking at governance?
I don't know how you would separate the two, but again, creating two separate campuses puts the national research designation in jeopardy. So I don't need a follow-up question. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Flowers, briefly, and then we're going to go to vote, please.
Well, I just want to say I agree with the last two speakers. And I am reminded of the debate years ago when Representative Phelps mentioned that SIU was just a little blip. And because of the community that has grown up around SIU to make it more prosperous, and for you to say that it has the same amount of students that Carbondale has, is really unfortunate because I would have guessed that SIUE, because of all of its latest equipment and the new stores, well, it's not new now, but the environment that was built up around that school, that it would have been better than Carbondale. But also I'm reminded of the aviation center at Carbondale, and the communication college, and the medical, which we're not clear on that. And now we're talking about the what is,
National accreditation.
yeah, the accreditation. And constantly talking about, well, we'll do a study. That costs money, and that's taken away from the students. Now, I gave you my word to help you get this out of committee so we can continue the conversation. But I just want to bring up one other thing. The question about UIC and the reason why it's 3 campuses. It's not better because it's governed by one board. Because I remember UIC in the 70s, and it's worse now than it was back then in regards to the minority participation. Looking at Carbondale, it's worse now than it was because it looks like a group of people are forgetting about the rest of the state, and they're only focusing in on certain things and certain kinds of people. So, but this is a conversation that needs to be had, and I'm not willing to destroy the students because the adults can't get their act in order. So with that being said, I'm going to keep my word, and you're going to keep yours, right? And what was your promise? I just needed to be said for the record.
I said it.
For the
I said if
record.
there was an amendment, it would come back to this committee. That's what I said.
If there was an amendment.
If
There's going to be an amendment.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with the last few speakers, Leader Hoffman. I think that this should get out. I think the conversation should definitely continue. You guys are dealing with some serious local issues, but I certainly would not commit to voting yes for this issue on the floor. I think it could create some precedential issues that are of greater concern. So there being no further debate, Representative Flowers did move that House Floor Amendment Number 2 to House Bill 1292 be adopted, recommends be adopted. Clerk, do we have leave for partisan leave?
No.
Partisan leave? On my side? You guys okay?
Want roll call?
All right. Roll call. Let's do a roll call. Oh, that's right. Oh, she's not on the roll. Partisan leave. 12-7. On a vote of 12-7, House Floor Amendment Number 2 to House Bill 1292 is recommending being adopted, has passed.
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized?
Yes.
Can we stipulate that everything that we just said on Representative Hoffman's first bill, we're just going to say on his next 2 bills so we can expedite things? I don't know.
You jumped
Maybe,
ahead.
maybe not.
You jumped ahead of me. I was going to because that took about an hour and 15 minutes. So I have Representative Bristow. The chair is recognizing Representative Bristow to present House Floor Amendment Number 2 to House Bill 1293. Representative, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. House Floor Amendment Number 2 allows the 2 student members on the board to vote. As Representative Hoffman said earlier, right now 1 student votes, and the governor actually chooses which one votes. And that may be next year, SIU, there's no real reason for one or the other. House Floor Amendment Number 1, if I may, amends the Southern Illinois Management Act and terminates the current SIU Board of Trustees and reconstitutes a new SIU board. So right now, the way it's made up, we'd like to change that to have 3 from Carbondale, 3 from Edwardsville, alum from Carbondale, alum from Edwardsville, 1 that hasn't gone to that school, and then 1 student from each each campus.
So I just want to be clear for the record. There is House Floor Amendment Number 1
That reconstitutes the board.
that reconstitutes the board.
Student, allows each student to have a vote on the board.
Okay. So we're clear. I don't have any witness slips for either proponents or opponents. And for the record, I do want to say that the amendments were referred by rules on Monday, and these bills were posted on Tuesday for hearings today, and there are no proponents or opponents. Any questions, keeping in mind the last debate? Representative Bryant.
I'll try not to ask the same ones, except that I did want to come back on the issue of, because U of I keeps getting used as the example. So they have 3 student trustees, correct? But only one gets a vote.
As far as I know, yes, that is correct.
But we want the 2 that we have to both have votes.
That is correct.
So we're not actually, I mean, we are the 2, U of I and SIU are the 2 Carnegie designated universities within the state, the 2 land grant universities. So if we want to compare each other, we don't really, there's no comparison between those 2 universities and other universities within the state because they stand separate from the others. So U of I hasn't deemed it necessary to do that, but we're pushing for that. And then the other issue here is that we would be putting into statute that they have to be SIU alum, which is wonderful that they're SIU alum, but we could be excluding very qualified people who did not graduate from either campus, but in statute, they would have to be alum from either of those. And I just think that we are pigeonholing ourselves into a place where we might be excluding some very good quality people that would be important to have on the board. And so,
Thank you, Representative. To your first point, we are willing to talk and amend the allowance for both students to vote. I would probably suggest that there are a lot of qualified alums from both campuses, and we might be eliminating from other schools, but there are plenty of qualified applicants from both campuses.
Representative Bennett.
Thank you very much. Different question than the first time, okay? Has the Board of Higher Education weighed in on this, or have they been consulted? I mean, that's part of this whole process, right?
Not yet, no.
Okay, will it be part of the process at some point?
It'll be up to them,
To them being...
to the Board of Higher Education.
Okay, so they have not been contacted yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Representative Flowers, then Representative Ammons.
When we reconstitute this board, is it under this current system, or are we looking futuristic?
In this case, it would be under the current system. This bill allows for reconstituting the board under the current system. Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Ammons.
Thank you. I just need to clarify, and I'm just a little confused because of the previous one. This is not a new board for the separated institutions. It is for the current scenario?
You are correct.
And the current scenario has, why do we have to do this again? I don't understand what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm usually never this lost, but I'm completely lost on why we're doing this.
So currently, traditionally, there are 7 members of the board. Traditionally, there's been 3 that have been that have been part of or coming from the SIU Edwardsville system. 3 that would come from or be part of the SIU Carbondale or live in that region, and then 1 that would be a neutral member. What's happened currently is 4 members have now been appointed from the Carbondale area. And so therefore, the Edwardsville area has been underrepresented. And the tradition and what we've lived under, and I incidentally have advocated to Republican governors and Democratic governors, it isn't the case anymore. And so we feel that we're underrepresented, and Representative Bristow's bill would attempt to address that.
Okay, I think that helps a little bit. I'll just say a statement of principle for myself. I'm certainly respectful of the members that represent that area. I respect you guys greatly. I'm a little, I don't like to be shot in the dark, so to speak, on what's going on in the local politics on this issue. I shared with Representative Greenwood and Katie that I would help definitely to get it out of committee. I'm probably going to have to do a little work by the time we get to the floor on this issue. And so thank you so much for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further members that want recognition, I do want to make a clarification so that we know what we're voting on here. We mentioned that there were two floor amendments, House Floor Amendment number 1 and Floor Amendment number 2. House Floor Amendment number 2 is a gut and replace and contains the language that's in House Floor Amendment number 1. So there only needs to be one vote, and there being no further debate, Representative Hoffman is on the roll and he moves House Floor Amendment number 2 to House Bill 1293, recommends be adopted. Do we have leave for partisan roll call? Amendment 2 is in committee. Okay. Leave being granted for partisan roll call on a vote, there being 12 votes in favor, 7 votes opposed, voting present, 0 voting present for House Floor Amendment number 2 to House Bill 1293 will be favorably reported to the House floor. Lastly, members, the chair recognizes Representative Katie Stewart to present House Floor Amendment number 1 to House Bill 1294.
Thank you. And just to, try to be clear from the beginning. So similar to Representative Bristow's bill, this is assuming under the current makeup where it is a system with president and 2 separate chancellors, that from this point forward, when we look at allocation and we look at appropriations, that whatever amount is appropriated to the Carbondale campus, the same amount would be appropriated to the Edwardsville campus. And as Representative Hoffman said before, I believe we need to support our higher education more than we have been statewide. So to answer Representative Flowers, I don't want to take any money away from Carbondale in order to give it to Edwardsville. I just feel that as we add money into our higher education system, we need to reflect the reality of what's going on at the 2 campuses, that a 50-50 allocation of dollars would be more appropriate.
Just for the record, let me check. I'm pretty sure I know the answer already. We do not have any witness slips in favor or in opposition to House Floor Amendment number 1 to House Bill 1294. I recognize Representative Flowers for debate.
Mr. Stewart, I just want to say this. If all things are equal, it shouldn't be because one get it, it's the other should get it, okay? It's the needs of the campuses. And so there may be where Carbondale may need more because it doesn't have the economic base that SIU Edwardsville has. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that Edwardsville has East St. Louis.
Correct.
But the fact of the matter is, I don't want us to go in, because you might need more. And so you might be cutting yourself out in regards to Edwardsville. So how can we say whatever one get, the other get? Now, either you're going to be one school and we'll divide it equally, but not this 60-40, because we're not going to take one away to give to another. If we could do 60-60, 65, whatever. But I'm going to support you, but I think there's a serious problem with how you're saying this, because you're not really thinking of the best interest of your school. You're just worried about what the other get. You just want to make sure you get the same thing because you've gotten less throughout the years.
Well,
but you have a better tax base than Carbondale.
But we're talking about just state appropriation dollars is
understand.
all we're discussing.
Yes.
And I just think that, so, 20 years ago, or, back in 2000, enrollments were different. There have been a lot of changes and a lot of growth at the Edwardsville campus. The School of Pharmacy has grown. And so when we talk about the needs at the different campuses, that wasn't taken into consideration under this kind of agreement of 60/40, and now we need to realize that's the reality, and so we need to direct funding
Based
to
on
the
needs.
Edwardsville
Based on needs. That's my point. Based on needs. Not because this one is getting 60% and I want 60%. Based on needs. It should be just based on needs. That's my only point.
Right, and I agree, we don't have, similar to our K-12 funding formula, we don't do higher education dollars that way, and that's a conversation we maybe need to have another time about how we fund all of our higher ed across the state.
I agree.
Under the current allocation, and if we maintain one system, I just believe this would take into consideration the needs of the two campuses better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two more members seeking recognition, and Leader Hammond hasn't spoken at all yet today. Leader Hammond.
Thank you, Chairman Welsh, and really more of a comment, and it would be applicable to all three of the bills that we have heard here this evening. And I've heard the discussions from a lot of our members here, and there are a lot of concerns here, a lot of concerns. And I hope you are taking those concerns to heart, because what's going on here right now with these three bills sets a terrible, terrible precedent here for Illinois and certainly for higher education. I hope you're hearing your colleagues.
Thank you, Leader. And lastly, Representative Bryant, it's dinner time.
I'll keep it very brief.
Okay.
I know it's
Representative
dinner
Bryant.
time. You sound like my grandpa. It's like 5 o'clock, it's time to eat. Doesn't matter if you ate at 4. Just two quick things. Just a question and then a comment. First, do we stipulate for any other university who has multiple campuses in this state how it's separated, that one campus gets X number of dollars and another? Do we put that in statute for any other system?
Not to my knowledge, but this is specific to this situation, where I feel that the board is not taking into consideration the needs and the
But
and the
they've
two
only met one
campuses.
time under the new person who was just put
No,
on,
but
right? They've only met one
historically,
time,
The agreement of the 60/40 funding, they have not been living up to.
but they haven't been a full board. The trustee board was had the appointment made, so they're
But this
only
is
a
a
complete
year after
board.
year after year. This is, I'm not
Understand.
just talking about this year.
I understand.
And that the agreement of 60/40, which I think needed to be looked at earlier.
Right, but
they
legislatively,
haven't even been living up to that.
does any other system, does the legislature dictate in any other system how the allocation is to be separated between, and I think you said you don't believe so,
I don't
right?
believe so, and if
Okay.
their board of trustees is
Okay.
taking into account the needs
Okay.
of the disparate schools, then
And then just finally one statement, because I don't think we're all at odds with each other. I think we all love the system, and we're trying to figure out how to make it healthy, okay? So I do want to let our colleagues know that we're not really at odds with each other. We're just trying to do the best thing and figure out our way through it. But there has been a lot of conversation, both here and at home, about the growth of Edwardsville. And I would, from what I have to look in front of me, I just want to make just a couple quick observations. Edwardsville in 2011, the student population was 11,428. Because I'm going to go back a little ways, just so we don't get into the mess of we didn't have a budget, okay? So 2011, 11,428. 2017, 11,402. There's actually a handful
you're only looking
less
at
students.
undergraduate
I'm looking at
enrollment,
other
though.
graduate, but if I look at graduate students, if I'm looking at 2011, it was 14,133, or sorry, 2011 was 14,235. And in 2017, it's 13,796. It's actually less. So if we're looking at, some
So-
growth, we really need to take those kind of numbers into consideration, so.
Except across the board in
But
the
we
entire
can't take a
state of
snapshot.
Illinois,
We can't
we've
take a
had-
snapshot of time and then say we're going to change everything about two university two campuses within one system, take that snapshot in time, and then say, we're going to change everything that we're doing.
Right. But, I mean, if you look at the same time frame, so you said 2011, correct?
Yes.
If we look at Carbondale, their enrollment was over 19,000.
But I would make the argument then that
And then
more
if we
money should
look-
be spent then to try to make sure that our
Currently,
enrollment goes
their
up.
enrollment is down to 14,000.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Now is not the time to take, we're in the middle of a reorganization that has to happen. Last year and the year before, Edwardsville was given the time to make and they acted quicker. I would certainly give them that kudos to them for doing it.
Yeah, and then they gave
Carbondale should
quite a
have.
large loan
And it
to the
was- And it
Carbondale
was repaid,
campus.
correct?
Yeah.
It was repaid. So the loan's not outstanding, but there's being the impression given that the loan is still outstanding.
No,
It's
I
not. Okay.
understand that, but they did have
Okay.
to
That-
loan.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers. And I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful
I know,
at
and I
all.
think I agree with you. I think we both want both campuses to flourish and grow, and we just need to figure out a way to make that happen, and thank you.
So I want to thank everyone for their patience here this afternoon. Obviously, this is a very, serious issue in the southern community. I just want to say that in higher education, we know that the state can do better, and we can do better with our enrollments all across the state. And I think everyone in this room wants to see us bring our students back to Illinois and to Carbondale, and to see all of our campuses continue to grow. So hopefully you guys will look at the bigger picture as you continue this conversation, on this issue. But at this time, there being no further debate, Representative Hoffman moves House Floor Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 1294, recommends be adopted. Do we have leave for partisan roll call? So on a vote of 12 to 7. There being 12 votes in favor, 7 opposed, 0 present, House Floor Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 1294 will be favorably reported to the House floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee.
You're
For
welcome,
everything.
sir. There being no further business before the House Higher Education Committee, we will stand in recess until the call of the chair.